the one who's really waiting for the best town on the tour. Tonight, live in
Bradford.
Yes, wonderful.
Bradford.
Famous for its superb.
Curries.
And it's amazing.
Bradford City Football Club.
Let's not forget, it's incredibly awe-inspiring.
Cheap cannabis.
So please, welcome to the stage, Mr. Ritchie.
And the crowd went wild. Hello. Oh, it's nice. Lovely to see you. Well, welcome, yes, very nice too. Is it too loud? No, I meant the suit. Have I gone a bit too far? I do look a bit of a div in it, don't I? I'm sorry about it. Only ever get two things said about me. One is aren't you fat? And the other is, don't you look like that Paddy from Emmerdale, that bed? I get that a lot. You might have to take this off, I feel a bit overdressed. Ladies and gentlemen, just 121 nights until Christmas. That's the way, isn't it? I'll fold that up and put it somewhere. Anybody in love? No. Anybody in season? Anybody in? All the romantic people shout, hey up fat lad. All the rheumatic people shout, hey up fat lad. I only put this up, by the way, just in case you haven't seen me before, because it says I'm fat, I'm getting on a bit, I try and be funny and I sing a bit. Fair enough? The fat thing don't bother me as long as you don't pat me. I don't like that. If you're fat, you always get patted by ladies. Like the opposite, you know. I'm in this club the other night, stood at the bar, this woman walked up to me, she's giving it this on my belly. She's going, oh, look at this, is it John Smith's bitter? Is it Carling Lager? I said, I don't know, love, there's a little tap underneath if you want to taste.
So, welcome to the showcase. This is where I interview entertainers, because I believe people like to know about entertainers and how they achieved their success. Please watch to the end, leave a comment, click the thumbs up, and subscribe for more great content. On this show, we have a multitude of talented people, and today is no exception. One of the best comes from Yorkshire, and we have the gentleman by the name of Mark Ritchie. Hello, Mark.
Well, hello, Sean. Nice to join you.
It's absolutely fantastic that you've joined us, Mark. So would you just tell the viewers what you do, when you got started, and then we'll talk about other things from there.
Well, I was born into a show business family. My mother was a backing musician for my grandfather, who was actually quite a famous singer. My dad was more of a part-time singer. He worked down the pit as well. I followed him, basically, and started down the pit, while at the same time working in live bands on the Yorkshire Clubland scene, sort of part-time. And then one day, after I'd had a major accident underground, I decided it was a lot safer on the stage. And I went solo in the mid-1980s and singing songs and telling jokes. And nowadays, I sort of, for a variety of reasons, I write books. I've got 3 books out, with a 4th one on the way, actually, at the moment. I publish a magazine called UK Cabaret, which is accessible online and by download. And I go out and do a few gigs still to this day because people are still too daft to realise I'm rubbish and they keep booking me.
That's awesome, Mark. Great introduction. Now, those days that the mining and things like that's all gone. And it's pretty much a sad affair that Britain has nothing to do with coal anymore, which was one of the greatest industries in the world. How do you feel about that, Mark?
I think it was inevitable, really. I think politicians of whatever hue will always have an agenda.
Yeah.
And the breaking down of heavy industry, not just mines, but docks, steelworks, you name it, was, I think, by design, and broke up society in a way that it's never been able to recover and probably never will. And now it's every man for himself, whereas the people in heavy industry used to work together and play together. We don't get that anymore. I wrote a book about it called the Clubland Empire, which was the history of the clubs when they began in Victorian times to the times when they started to dip. We actually had 4,500 clubs in the UK presenting some kind of entertainment or other in 1973. And these days there are sort of just over 1,000, 1,200 left. So that tells its own story.
Yeah, I remember those days vividly, going to the miners' clubs, and you'd have to get there by 6 o'clock, as you wouldn't get a seat. And the entertainment business was absolutely flourishing, with people like yourself and me and some great artists that was around on those days. And sadly, it forced a lot of musicians into retirement. It's good to see that yourself, Mark, is still doing a bit, because everywhere I went in club dressing rooms, I saw your poster. I wonder if they're still up there, Mark.
Oh, I doubt it.
No.
No, I keep going because basically the money comes in handy, but also people keep saying, oh, you must be really old now. Why don't you retire? And of course, nobody really ever retires in show business. Simply, the phone stops ringing. And once it stops ringing, it retires you. So, and the phone keeps ringing, so I keep turning up.
Yeah. And you're a rarity nowadays, because comedians are dying a death. There's not a lot of, with all this political correctness and everything. What type of comedian stuff do you do, Mark?
Well, I should start by telling you that I've combined my work as an entertainer with a career as a writer and journalist. And I worked for the Stage newspaper for 16 years until they very kindly made me redundant. And that's when we formed the UK Cabaret magazine to replace what we used to cover in the Stage, because they're mainly actors and, in my opinion, quite London-centric these days. So I wrote a review. I was writing reviews about acts, which either makes you into the most popular guy ever or the most hated guy ever, depending on what kind of review you received. And there was a young man who took umbrage at something that appeared in print in the Stage newspaper some years ago, and decided to use that marvellous platform for the self-absorbed that we call Facebook to vent his spleen and express himself in his own way. And he decided, well, what do I know about anything? Talking about me, I'm just a fat old comic who sings a bit. And I thought, I'll have that. I'll take that. And so that's what it says on my publicity now and on my stage banners and everything. Mark Ritchie, a fat old comic who sings a bit. And that's where it came from. Someone who was meaning to insult me. And I thought, well, it's actually factually quite accurate. I'm fat, I'm getting on a bit, I sing a few songs and I try and have a laugh.
Well,
so that he did me a favour, really.
That's a fantastic story, Mark. I used to religiously buy the Stage, and when I lived in Hull, I had it delivered. Was it every fortnight or was it monthly?
It was every Thursday.
That's right.
Since about 1880 something.
Oh my God! Well, I used to get it, and I remember once going away with Karen, Leather and Lace, to the Middle East to do these 5-star hotels where you're doing 45-minute sets a night. I was out there for 6 months, I think. When I come back, my mum says, I couldn't get in the door. There's that many Stage magazines posted. And honest to God, Mac, when I went home, I just didn't know what to do with them all. It was just ridiculous. So,
well, it's changed now. I don't hold a subscription anymore because really it's all about actors and the whole shebang. I worked for them for a lot of years, and really you could see what direction it was going in. They were making a lot of money at one stage with something called Show Call, which is a showcase that they used to organise, which I was involved in various ways. And then gradually that started to ebb, and they couldn't quite grasp the fact that if you don't put anything about this side of the business in terms of coverage, dedicated space in what is supposed to be a national newspaper for entertainment, then people from this side of the business aren't going to buy it. And that's basically what happened. I'm afraid ironically, I'd been the lone voice trying to sort of up this area of the business by getting some space in the paper, and I was the one who, one of a few actually, who got axed from the stage. And we should have thought at that time, it was a heck of a week, because in 1 week, this is in 2014. In 1 week, I lost my 3 main sources of income. We were running a holiday park at the time. That went west due to some changes there in personnel, shall we say. And the stage. And then there was something else I was doing at the time. And so all of it in the same week, which was, if you're self-employed, it's obviously a bit of a blow. The timing was impeccable. So I thought, what shall we do? I can sit around, mope and feel sorry for myself, or we can launch something new, and it's a magazine called UK Cabaret.
Wow.
Had I had a bit more forethought, I'd have brought some back issues up and held them up sort of like that to show you.
Well,
I didn't do that.
I'll copy them and download them and put them on the.
Well, now I couldn't do that anyway after this month, because we've gone completely digital this month. We used to publish hard copy up to last month, the month before last, and we've stopped doing that now because
it makes sense.
The printing costs and the costs of postage and all the rest of it. Yeah. So now we have a beautiful A4 size digital magazine.
Yeah.
And I would ask your viewers to take a look at the website and figure out how to view it, because you can just download a copy from the website.
Is there a charge for that, Mark?
£3.95.
Right.
Per secure digital download.
So what's to stop people downloading it and sharing it amongst the friends? Is it?
Well, nothing particularly, except that they are subscribers and they receive all kinds of other benefits by being subscribers, like in an artist directory. And it'd also be an infringement of our copyright. Yeah. So we would get quite cross about that and ask them not to do it again.
I understand. I used to just revert into the stage, and then you can tell me the alternative to this in your new magazine. I owe big thanks to the stage, because I loved the back where they would advertise for acts, for holiday parks abroad and all. And I met Eva Clarence through that, and we ended up going abroad, and that was fantastic. Has your magazine got something like that in it?
Yeah, we have space for we have an artist directory, which also now features hyperlinks, because a lot of the acts have websites with show reels, YouTube footage, all sorts of things. So they can get access to that that way, and the acts come from in various different categories. And so you can normally find something close to at least what you're looking for and they're in our back pages as well, actually. And we have an agents directory as well, where we're sponsored by the Entertainment Agents Association, and they have a directory of their own, and that appears at the back of the magazine, the back pages of the magazine as well. So it's very similar.
Wow. And do you still do features of artists, like stories, like things like that?
We do. Reviews are the most popular download reason for people giving downloads. So we do reviews, we do features, we do a lot of interviews where we do a Q&A, and people who subscribe to us can basically sell themselves. It's free advertising space, really. And we do features on the cruise ship entertainment market, holiday parks, what remains of the clubs, and the tribute market, which is obviously still growing. And we have writer contributors who contribute regularly on these different subjects, and also sponsors who come in and kindly sponsor the pages, and they're normally leading companies within a specific market. For example, our holiday centre feature is sponsored by a company called Valcarto Entertainment, who are based in the Midlands in England, and they have obviously a constant presence in the magazine and online.
And what's the viewership at the moment in terms of numbers?
That's difficult to gauge because we get we have paid subscribers who pay an annual amount to subscribe to us, and that's hovering around the sort of under 2,000. But that's although that might not sound a lot, you've got to bear in mind it's a niche publication. So, for example, people who are interested in Fishing World will be fishermen. People who are interested in Cabaret will be entertainers or suppliers or agents, you see. So it's a niche market, and that's really where publishing's at these days. Also, of course, though, we have our two other people who view our material, two other types of people. One are people who just turn up at the website. They log on to the website and they think, right, there's something I really want to see it appears every month. There's something we really want to see in the June issue, for example. And so they'll go back to the June issue of last year and they'll look in our archive and they'll download that particular issue that they're interested in seeing. So we make money, we get a little income out of that. And then the rest of it comes from advertising. And also we have, at the last count, which was very recently, we had on a typical week, you were looking at 17 to 18,000 registered web users.
Wow.
Who look at the site once a week or more.
That's fantastic, that, Mark. And do clubs advertise their acts, or is it not kind of like for clubs?
It's not that kind of gig, really.
Yeah.
The thing is, a club in, I don't know, say Yorkshire, would get very limited impact from advertising what acts they had on, because there's people reading it in Devon or Cornwall or Kent or Scotland or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So no, the Clubland piece is normally a piece written about a Clubland topic.
Excellent.
For example, the last month, I think we had a report on a Clubland entertainer who sadly died very suddenly and unexpectedly. And they did a memorial concert, and I did a report on that, who was in it, and where it was, basically not a review as such, but more of a feature on who took part and how much was raised and stuff like that.
So if I was a guitar vocalist, for example, I could maybe look at the adverts and maybe get a job through it or something like that, find employment. That's marvellous. It's a really good idea, because I think yours probably is the only magazine now that does anything like that.
As far as I know, we are the only one.
Yeah.
I was rather amusingly, I laugh at it now, the publisher at the stage wrote me a letter, an email actually, which I kept at the time of them dispensing with my services. And he said, I think I'm quoting him directly now, when he said, I can see no discernible market for a publication such as yours. And yet here we are.
Unbelievable.
So if I sound like I'm, what's the word, scoffing, sort of, not boasting, but being, glad at his. I'm very glad that he was as wrong as he seems to have been.
Well, he can't have been a Clubland entertainer because he doesn't know the business like you. So, there's nobody as experienced in the market as you, and you can tell it as it is. And I'm sure you would have told him, I either agree with you or I disagree with you. And on this occasion, you was right.
Well, I've never heard from him since, which is fine. They're a family-run operation, and the woman who was in charge of it, she was mostly very nice to me. So I can't be I'm not sort of bitter about it as such, but shall we say, sometimes people don't do things in the classiest of ways, and what they think makes business sense is one thing, but the way that they do it is very often a sign of what kind of people they are.
And yourself, do you get out and look at other acts, or don't you bother anymore?
Well, that's another thing. With the UK Cabaret, we cover heavily the trade showcase scene, and there are several, and all bar one. There's one we don't cover, for reasons which are too long and boring to go into here. But there are others that we cover, organised by individual agents, or the so-called emergence of these national showcases. When the stage decided to stop doing show call, everyone jumped in and said, we'll do that then. And now there are, I think, 4 national showcases now, which UK Cabaret cover 3 of them.
Wow.
The acts pay to be on them, but they get a show reel out of it and photography and all kinds of, and access to a trade audience where they can fill their diaries up.
And where are those located, Mark?
Well, there's one in Blackpool, which is organised by a company called Showcase Productions, and they have that at the Viva Cabaret Club in Blackpool. And then there's one we're invited to called the Curtains Up Showcase, which is at Chelsea Bill down in Sussex. And then there's a new one launching in Skegness area, Chapel St Leonard's, a place called the Club Tropicana. The 4th one, as I say, is one we don't cover, it's hard to say that they have some kind of, well, we'll put it this way, they mind us a lot more than we mind them. They seem to have some problem with us as a magazine, which we've no idea what it is, and we don't care.
So if I was an act watching this and I wanted to book on one of them shows, all the information's in the magazine, is it?
It is.
Excellent. And
Absolutely.
Are they held once a year or every 6 months?
Some of them, the Showcase Productions people had 2 last year. They had a November one and a February one. The reviews are always published, and that's one of the things that people download for, because if they don't get the magazine regularly, they think, oh, well, let's see the reviews from when we were on in Blackpool or wherever. So they download a single copy.
I see. And what is it? Agents that go along to these events, bookers, agents, and things like that.
Agents, bookers, yeah. Anybody with a venue, anybody who employs an agent to source cabaret for them, the chain companies from the holiday centre companies, cruise ship bookers. Wow. And it's a big pressure deal. It always was. Yeah. And some people react very differently to pressure than others. So some people don't always come over well on these things. The 2 things that really stand out are, one, you can always spot the Clubland people who are doing them, because they're the ones who moan about the equipment they're using. They always think they sound terrible because it doesn't sound like their own equipment.
Correct.
So they always moan about the sound. And the other lot are the people who turn up and don't actually appreciate that the big stage teams, stage managers, sound people, the lighting people, the monitor people, the compere, everybody is there actually to do their best, but not just to do their best for them. Some entertainers can be quite self-absorbed in that way, when they don't sort of study the scene as a whole. And they also let themselves down rather badly, because the bookers very often see how they react.
Yes.
And they think, well, if they're going to do that here, should we be really using them? I'll give you a really prime example. I was at a showcase once where this very impressive singer-comedian was on, and he had done his homework, and he'd gone on stage and done a bomb. That's the thing, you never know you're doing a bomb with showcases, because you don't get a lot from the agents. They've seen it all, but he had done a bomb, and I'd noticed a lot of bookers sitting close to me who were very interested and were making notes about him. And then the guy comes out into the audience, and walks to the back of the room, spots somebody he knows, and starts doing some sort of obscene mime thing with him. of a sort of sexual nature, I'll say no more than that. And immediately everybody who's been making notes of him has seen him do this, and they just strike a line through his name. That's it. He's done.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know. He won't have even known this guy. He was so close to a load of lucrative work and threw it away himself.
I've been a victim of that myself. When I was managed with Peter McLeod. Do you remember Peter McLeod?
I do, yes.
Lovely bloke.
Yes, Peter's no longer with us.
No, I think he is, but the agency is run by Liz Hugel. But it's not the big affair that it used to be.
Oh, well, I'd heard that Peter had passed away, but if I'm wrong, I apologise.
Well, I'll certainly find out, but if he has, it's probably, in the last 4 months. Because I was talking to Liz and she said, no, he's still with us, which is nice. I was with a group called Savage Onion, which Peter was politely asked us to use that name. I was with 2 other girls, and it was a near the bone comedy show. And I did Right Said Fred, I'm Too Sexy. Full of bookers, the stage it was down in Wales, and I got it was going to bomb. Peter said there were loads of people wanting to book you until he got his fake dick out. It's it. You killed it. Yeah. So sadly, talk about going over the top. But that was the show. That's what we did on stage, and I never gave it a second thought. So anyway, moving on. Moving on. It's great that you've got this magazine and that you're still committed to that. And I'm sure many artists from this that will watch this will be very grateful. And I hope you will get lots of more subscribers. We'll put the website on there and everything, which is very important. And I still think there's need for supporting artists like you're doing still. You've always done that all your life, Mark. And I think Axe will remember you for that. And it's really important that Axe understand that there are still some people out there that have the knack that you've got to be able to put shows together and organise the magazines that you do to help them. A lot of people who I talk to on here, Mark, are kind of like moving away from agents. They're a bit fed up of agents. Now, I want to say this lightly, and please, agents, don't get me wrong. What you do great. And I appreciate I've had a lot of work through agents. But what I find is that now people are telling me that the agents are a bit particular. They're only selling the management acts. And when you go out there and want to sell yourself to an agent, if they dislike you for some reason, not your act, but you personally, they won't book you. And I think a lot of people are kind of like disillusioned with that kind of attitude. How do you feel about that?
I don't. I wouldn't say it's any worse in show business than it is in any other form of walk of life. I think there are people who are good at social situations and they're good at projecting themselves personally as well as being on stage. We just talked about it with the young man at the showcase who did something ridiculous when he came out into the audience. I'm not saying everybody does something like that, but sometimes when alcohol and other substances take over, people show themselves up, and you can get a bad name as quickly as that.
Yes.
As regards the agents selling managed acts, well, of course, that's kind of understandable, isn't it?
It's always been like that.
That's why they're employed that way. Because if you're Joe Bloggs and you've got an agency that's representing you, and suddenly he's booking everybody else into venues that you could be doing, and hang on, he's supposed to be managing me. Why aren't I getting those jobs? So really, I think you make a choice of whether you employ agents or whether you do a lot of the hard yards chasing around for work yourself.
Yeah,
I've always been quite lucky, really, with agents, I think.
Yeah, me too. That's well said, Mark. And everybody has their own way of thinking about it. Like yourself, you've always used agents. I've always used agents. Very rare have I booked myself directly, and even onto the cruises and the stuff abroad like Eva Clarence. You pay your money and they get you the work. Without that, you're not going to get it. So, that's how it is. Are you travelling around the country much? Are you kind of like happy now to stay around the Wakefield area?
No, I did last weekend in Skegness, and I travel mainly just for one-nighters when people want me. I turn down actually more work now than I accept. I just want bits and pieces really of decent work. And I think I've earned that right after all these years in the business to be able to pick and choose a little bit. Because most of my time now, apart from the magazine, is spent writing books.
Oh, let's talk about your books. So you spoke about the magazine. So
Well,
you're
that's
an
my
author.
life.
You're an author. 100 Heroes of UK Comedy. So is that full of UK comedians?
It is.
Wow.
I have 3 books. If you check on Amazon and you put my name in Amazon Books, you'll find a book called Right Place, Wrong Time,
Okay.
which is actually my life story.
Well, do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Well, I wrote that during COVID because we'd nothing else to do. And I sort of thought, right, I can never do this while my parents are still alive. And I'd not long since lost my mother at that time. So I thought, now is the time. We have no other way of making any money. So I wrote the book. I have an old friend, Nick Ord, who's a publisher for a company called Desert Hearts Publishing. And I asked him about it, and he was very encouraging. And I sort of thought, well, who would want to buy it? Because, I'm not exactly a household name, but I think, we kept doing reprints and more reprints and more reprints, and it's still selling. So then I followed that up in 2021 with the Clubland Empire, which is the start of the book I mentioned before, which is about how the clubs began in Victorian times, mainly in London, but in other places too, and how they started to dip and why they started to dip away. And then last year, I had a bit of a gap then, and last year I started to write about comedy and the people who make comedy, people who make people laugh. And the book is called 100 Heroes of UK Comedy and Me. There's an and me just underneath there. And basically, it tells a story of. I'm just picking a page at random here. We've come across. We've come across. How did you do that?
I saw it. My best friend was his keyboard player, Terry Bell.
I don't know how you did. I know Terry from Hull.
Yes, yeah.
How did you do that? I was on Ken Dodd's page. I don't know. You must be psychic.
I saw his picture quickly.
Oh, well, I'll be it then. Ken Dodd is someone I've had a little bit to do with in the past.
Yeah.
I tell a story of Ken Dodd, and then I tell a story of Ken Dodd and me. And it's the same with the 100. It's all first-hand anecdotes about all these people, 100 people, of comedy.
Wow.
And we've got everybody. We've got Lady Johns, the Mad Maori, Danny James, Roy Slitherman, J, Eddie Izzard, Huff and Puff, Billy Hunter,
Chubby
Joey
Brown.
Howard, Grumbleweeds, Paddy, to name but a few. Yeah. And there's 100.
You got Chubby Brown in there?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're all in there, but they're all it's not just it's not it is you might say, oh well, you mentioned Ken Dodd. Ken Dodd, everybody knows Ken Dodd was a comedian who Kenneth Arthur Dodd from Liverpool, Notty Ash, Did You Men, Tickle Sticks, all that. Everybody knows all that stuff. But I give a first-hand account of something to do with Ken Dodd when I had a little bit to do with him. And that presents a different perspective of who these people really were.
Wow.
And he was much loved, obviously.
Yeah.
And I had an encounter with him that I thought was worth putting in the book.
Oh.
And so I did. And people who want to read about it will have to buy a copy.
Yeah. And have you met everybody that you've written about?
Everybody, yes.
Oh, that's a story in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been around a while.
You're still not retired. I'm 65 and retired, and you're not.
No, there's a lot of people in here. They appear in alphabetical order.
Okay, that's good to know. And is it on an ebook as well, Mark?
No, it's not. We just sell the books as books. Anybody who wants to get in touch with me about getting a book, please send me an email. It's mark.ritchie, and it's RITCHIE at UK Cabaret
Okay.
That's mark.ritchie@ukcabaret.com. And that'll tell you, I'll be able to reply and tell you, arrange for you to get a book, basically.
Fantastic. Are you not into these ebooks, Mark?
No, not particularly. The first two, which I think I'm writing, saying that Amazon sell them on our behalf.
Right.
And if you visit Amazon Books and you put my name in again, and the titles of the books, again, it directs you on how to do it. I don't sort of get too involved in all that.
No, I understand.
Technical gubbing. As you can
just-
tell with you today, I'm a bit hopeless with stuff with this sort of technology.
Well, you've got to move with the times, Mark.
I know, tell me about it. This is what people keep telling me. I was at a meeting last night in Wakefield, funnily enough, with our designer at UK Cabaret, Adam Press, and our online manager, Martin Brown, and we were discussing all sorts of things like this, and they're very clued up in everything. They're my two resident genius figures in the company, and I was listening and sort of glazing over a little bit at one point, because they might as well be talking Japanese when they start going on about stuff on the web and different things that they do to make the magazine look better and all of this. And I just sort of think, well, I'm lucky to have them.
Yeah, you're right. Is book 4 in the making, Mark?
Yes, but book 4, I'm glad you mentioned that, because book 4 is not published by Desert Hearts. I should mention that the 3 books that are about entertainment are all published by a company called Desert Hearts. And again, we're going web, you can order a copy from his website, www.deserthearts, so DESERT, deserthearts.co.uk. And if you just scroll down a bit, you'll find my name on different books. And you just order the one you're interested in. But the 4th book, to answer your question, is not showbiz related. Very quickly, it's a story of it's a book I hope will solve a murder riddle that's been going on for 137 years.
Oh.
A lot of people may have heard of the Whitechapel murders of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
In London in 1888, and just before and after it. I think he's an unidentified serial killer, and there have been some recent claims, spurious as it turns out, about people who've claimed that they can prove DNA and all this, and it is utter nonsense that the press have bought in on these stories of a shawl that's supposed to have had DNA on it, and there's some other people banging on about some guy who drove a cart, Pickford's horse and cart, that he was a murderer, and there's no
I heard
proof.
that it was royalty. A lot of people were saying.
Oh, that's a very common misconception. You do hear people hear about this. First thing people say, was it the Queen Victoria's grandson, the Duke of Clarence? Oh, no, it wasn't. The Duke of Clarence, we know this because on the nights of 5 of the murders, he was either in Balmoral in Scotland, or he was in his barracks at York, or he was staying with some friends at a house near Scarborough. And so absolutely not, no way. There is a tenuous connection between Duke of Clarence and the whole East End thing, because it has been alleged, and I should say only alleged, that there was, careful how I say this in view of the fact that you have lawyers too, there is a connection between the royal family and a certain scandal which took place in the East End of London at the time of Jack the Ripper.
Wow.
But that is where the link ends. In my book, which I'm working on, I don't know what his title is yet, because I've not come up with the title yet, but I intend to prove, I name this person in my first book, biography. His name was Robert Mann, and he was a mortuary attendant. And I seem to have accumulated information about him that other researchers haven't. One other researcher has mentioned his name, and come up with a certain amount of information. I've managed to come up with even more information, which is the basis of my book. And I believe that at times he was provided with a motive by an American quack doctor who had a lot of money. He was a crook. He was called Tumblety, and he was in London at the time, and he was providing the motive because he was offering a huge amount of money for female body parts. Yes, it's all rather gruesome. Now, he was gay, this guy Tumblety, and he always had this coterie of young men round him. Make of that what you will. And one of these young men, I think I can prove, was a man who may have been called Gibson and was born in Stornoway in Scotland, but always throughout his life went through various aliases, one of them being Poriot. And he's buried in Toowong Cemetery in Brisbane, Australia. And I've actually stood at his grave. I visited his grave and found his grave, on which there was carved a figure holding a knife into the gravestone. So I think I can prove that Robert Mann and maybe others were buying and selling body parts.
But it's such a long time ago, Mark, that it won't achieve anything apart from probably putting an end to the stories. Is that what your aim is to do?
I think that sometimes serial killers are lionized. There's some kind of feeling of, they're quite romantic figures, that this cloak and dagger sort of stuff. And I think people forget that the women who were attacked and murdered, and there were attacks other than the murders, I think, were people, were human beings, and were living in a very, very impoverished state where they sold their bodies for fortunes, for enough for a bed for the night. And I think it would be really nice if these women, long dead, everyone long dead in it, but it would be nice to put a line under it.
That'd make, I'm sure that'd make for international reading. It'd be a very successful book if that could be proved to be the case.
Well, I'm going to London to a conference in October about it, and I've been asked to say a few words. And while I'm there, I've got a meeting with my new publisher. Desert Hearts only publish showbiz books, music books, arts books, so they'd have no interest in this book. No. But there's a publisher who is meeting with me in October. I sent him quite a detailed synopsis a while ago of the book, and a little bit of business was done, shall we say. Wow. And we moved forward from there.
A clever man, aren't you? Singer, comedian, author.
Sleuth, murder sleuth.
I like that one, yeah.
It would be nice just to sort of put a name that we can prove it, because a whole cottage industry has grown up around this murderer. People do tours around London, walking tours, and people have written books and done all kinds of. People make money out of YouTube videos and stuff. It would be nice to say, look, guys, here's what I can prove.
But how can a man from Wakefield put the end to put a close to it when you've got ultra specialist detectives, DNA specialists, medical experts that can still not solve it?
Well, DNA wasn't really invented at the time.
Correct.
So nobody took these kind of samples. Fingerprints weren't widely used until about 1902. So again, there was nothing to get there. How can I do it? Really, I'm no cleverer or stupider than any other researcher. Like to think I have a grasp on history, particularly Victorian history in this country, and I like to think, readers will no doubt decide whether I'm right or wrong, that I've got a handle on the whole what was going on in the area at the time, which was really a terribly desperate story of poverty and desperation. And it's basically hard yards. I've just put the time in. I've visited everywhere there is to visit: history centres, the National Archive, the Black Museum, the all kinds of places where I could glean information. And I'd be very, very lucky that I've come across some fragments that have helped me put this jigsaw puzzle back together.
Wow.
I'm no better or more talented or worse than anyone else. I've just been very, very lucky.
Right place at the right time. let's get back to it's interesting, and I'm sure people should look out for that book. So as soon as you know the name, it'll be very interesting, Mark.
Oh, maybe you'll
What
invite me on another time.
I absolutely will. Mark, we're talking about Clubland earlier and the successes and downfalls. In your opinion, what's the future of Clubland? What does it hold?
To be quite frank, I don't think it has one in our
Right.
society. It's an outmoded concept now. People who play together and work together, those times have gone.
Yeah.
There will always be an odd few sort of community clubs up and down the place, but I'm afraid it's a case of shutting the stable door when the horse has already bolted. What happened was that they didn't move on when they should have moved on. And there was this awful business of let's retain the working men's thing, and the women weren't allowed to take part. That's changing now, but too late, obviously. And then there's the whole heavy industry thing that people, we had the miners' welfares and the works social clubs and stuff like that. They've all gone. Communities, the way they are divided up now, really, I think, determines that there is really no cohesive sort of future for the clubland movement as we knew it.
Could we move away from the name Workingmen's Club Social Club and rebrand it into a new concept?
A lot of them are clubs that you would know in the Wakefield area, are now using it as an example. So-and-so Working Men's Club is now just called so-and-so Club. And people join or don't join based on it's nothing to do with their gender or anything like that. So, but as I say, it's this closing the stable doors when it's already about, and there's still this perpetuation of ideas that old people are really interested in going out for bingo and stuff like that. So, while ever that carries on, and they don't appeal to communities in a family way, then I don't think Clubland has a future, alas. I'm sorry to say that.
Do you think nowadays, I mean, I've noticed when I came back last year, Mark, there's an awful lot of pubs now are booking artists.
Yeah.
An awful lot of pubs.
Well, I'm not an expert on that because I don't do them.
No. It is a different thing altogether.
Different thing altogether.
You stood in the corner in some places and you just kind of like,
go stand in the hearth or I'll give you an example of that, and it wasn't a pub. It was actually a club, but this is the reason why I don't do pubs. I turned up for a club gig not that long ago in Leeds, and when I got there, the place was absolutely packed out with Chinese people.
Oh.
And I mean probably about 400 of them in a big concert room in Leeds. And I walked around a bit, I'm thinking, and there's a karaoke on stage in a disco and all this stuff going on. It's somebody's wedding. And I just walked around for a bit and rang the agent on my mobile phone, and he said, I'll ring the guy at the club. And he comes out to the foyer and he says to me, he says, oh, you're not in there. You're not in there. Oh, I'm just being handed a cup of tea while I'm live on air.
How nice.
Isn't that nice? My wonderful wife, Beverly.
How nice. A good cup of tea,
man. And the guy in the club came to me. He said, oh, no problem. We've let the concert room out tonight. We need you to be in here. And he led me into a games room with a couple of snooker tables in there and a dartboard. And I had to apparently stand under the dartboard while I had to trail my wires from my speakers out in front of the audience into this passive speaker cabinet. And people would have to walk through me, basically, to go to the loo and back. Well, there's something got public liability insurance. Yeah. And if I'd have agreed to do that, then somebody did trip to be me that got sued.
Correct.
So I basically refused the gig and told them I wouldn't be doing it. And I'd also require paying, please. So I left them to it and let the agent sort it out. Well, as luck would have it, I got a phone call from the agent straight away. Another club had been let down. Would I go there? And it was a bit more money anyway. So all's well that ends well. But the point I'm making is that we've got people in pub situations, which was the question you asked initially. People in pub situations who are setting up and people are spilling beer all over the gear, and, the people who are causing trouble, and it's far too close to you. And
I went to a club in Dewsbury, Mark. I was doing a Smoking Eagles tribute, and the guy said, "You're in front of the fire, though. Set up and sing there." And I said, "Well, what happens if there's a fire?" "Well, they'll run through you, won't they? And you'll be the first out." And that's their attitude. And I'm thinking, it's not very professional, is it? So I tried to keep away from the door as much as I could, but I really was not in the mood, you know. It doesn't put you in a mood.
Anymore,
you what, Mark?
It's not a very professional business anymore.
Yeah.
Those days have gone, I'm afraid. It was always the club end of it was always run by amateurs anyway. But nowadays, they're amateurs who aren't even voted on to the committee. They're just co-opted on, basically, because nobody else wants to do it. And you've got, not in all cases, I hasten to add, some are excellent club officials.
Yeah.
And some are great. You get an odd one or two good people in the box and stuff like that. But sometimes that's where they put the village idiot.
Yeah.
And it's all a bit grim, I'm afraid.
Mark, just to end the show, I probably sorry to put you on the spot, but you know, one of them guys that has a lot of stories. I just wondered if you had a story to tell about Clubland to close the show on.
Yeah. Well, I hopefully it's a funny story. We were talking about. I'll leave the swear word out because there's a swear word in it, and I'll leave it out. I'll say bleep instead of the swear word. All right.
Okay.
This is a story that I included in my first book. And it's a story of being on a show with an act which was a male duo called Two Good Reasons. That was their name, Two Good Reasons. So they get the village idiot guy in the box, who was also really drunk. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, please, all round the room, best of order, for the reasons. So the lads they had guitars, and they didn't strike up, they didn't do anything. One of them turned to the other and said, "You've got our name wrong, Mr. Chairman. It's not." "Oh, all right." So he shuffles with his papers. "Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. It is actually the two reasons." And the guys, again, by this stage, they're sort of probably, teasing him a bit. But two reasons. No, that's not. I'll give you a clue. How many of us are there? "Oh, the two reasons." "Yeah, but are we any good?" "Well, I don't know. I haven't bleep seen you yet."
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I mean, there was a real duo on the scene. I don't know if you remember, called the Two Hats.
Yeah, well, I remember them.
Yeah.
Twins.
Yeah, you can imagine some of the concert sex, can't you?
I suspect, though, they said that just to get that sort of reaction.
I can imagine so.
There were a couple of boys from Barnsley, and they were twins, weren't they?
Yeah, there was.
But there was also an act. I really, really howled with laughter one night watching an act called Henry Winkler's Rocking Wankle Engine. And the guys on his band, and the guys on stage were absolutely crying at this fella trying to say it in the box. You can imagine, can't you?
I can, yeah.
Only in Clubland, eh?
Hey, only in Clubland. And on that note, as Max drinking his cup of tea, is it English tea? Is it Yorkshire tea? Earl Grey?
Oh, yes, I like an Earl Grey.
Oh, okay. We've had a great showcase today. Probably one of the longest ones I've done, but it's been worth every minute's been spectacular. So I'd really like to say a big thank you to Mark Ritchie, and I hope you watch this showcase all the way through. And secondly, that you go onto his website and investigate his books, because just by watching Mark here and his demeanour and his ways, I should imagine his books are very much the same and very, very interesting. So
I'll send you a copy.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's why I asked you if you had an e-copy. I could have got it tonight. But that's the way it is. And the showcase, is it the magazine, Mark?
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm just plugging a wire in.
You plug away. So Mark's obviously...
My laptop's running out of juice.
Oh.
So I'm just going to plug this in, otherwise you may lose me very suddenly.
So we've been talking to Mark Ritchie, and go on and look at the showcase, subscribe, because it keeps you up to date with the business. Mark's certainly open and factual and tells it as it is, which is what we all want to know. We don't want any bull. And there's adverts in there for showcases and adverts for people abroad and things like that. So I can imagine it would be a good read. And if you'd like to be featured in there, speak to Mark. And
love to hear from you.
He'll what?
I'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, he would love to hear from you. So from me at the showcase, I've really enjoyed today. I'd like to thank Mark Ritchie. Last words from you, Mark.
Absolute pleasure, and I'll tune into other showcase guests that you've got on too.
I'm sure you will, Mark. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you, Sean.
Because